Hey, I'm Robbie Couch, and I'm the author of If I See You Again Tomorrow, and this is Young Entertainment Mag.
Amazing. Well, hi, I'm Daniela with Young Entertainment Mag. We're so excited to have you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy and excited to be here.
Yes. What a cool
Did
name
you?
you
Okay.
have, by the way. Like, do people tell you that all the time?
Yeah, it's funny. People either like laugh at it or they're like, really? Like couch, like a sofa? I'm like, yeah, like a piece of furniture. I always get in the habit of saying like Robbie Couch, like a sofa, because people can't seem to believe that someone's last name would be Couch. But thank you. Yeah, I like it. I used to be annoyed of it when I was younger, and now I've fully leaned into the furniture vibe of it.
Isn't that funny how like when you're younger, the quirky things about you, it's like so annoying. And then when you're older, you're like, yeah, this is me. This is who I am. And I love it. Like I love that it makes me different. It's funny how it changes.
Exactly. I feel like I look back at high school and I'm like, yeah, all the weirdos, and I include myself as a weirdo in high
Yeah.
school. Like I feel like we blossomed into doing cool things because it's
Totally.
sort of like that same thing where the things you're like embarrassed by or make you different as adults, you're like, wait, that's actually kind of your superpower. So I feel
Okay.
that.
Yes. So then I have to share. So my maiden name. So growing up, my last name was Pupa, Pupa. So you can imagine like the
Right.
bullying I got for that. But it's
Oh,
Italian, so it means doll in Italian. But in the dictionary, a pupa is when it's the caterpillars like in between the stage, like right before it comes a butterfly. And it's like it had a
oh,
cool meaning, but like no one knew that growing up. I was just made fun of for it. But it's kind
oh
of funny.
no. Yeah. You're like, no, I swear this is a cool ass name. But yeah, elementary school kids can be brutal. That's tough.
Totally. Yes. Okay. So, congrats on your third book release. I mean, that is huge. What has the response been like so far?
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm really, really excited. It comes out April 18th, but advanced copies have already been out into the world with a lot of reviewers and book bloggers and bookstagrammers and stuff. And it's been really, really positive. I've haven't got so my first two books were pretty well received and were got positive reviews, but this one has been the only book that I've received like three starred reviews. I don't know if you're familiar with like how starred reviews work, but they're usually kind of reserved for more exceptional reviews. So it's been so cool to see the book, yeah, just to have it resonate with people and to see the buzz out there. And I'm going on tour for the first time in a couple of weeks, so I'm really, really jazzed.
That is so exciting. Okay, so I feel like being an author is not like I feel like when I think about the career of being an author, I feel like it's not super clear to me on like no one talks really about it. Like you don't learn about it growing up in school. Like, oh, this is how you become an author. So like you
Yeah.
just mentioned, you're going on your tour. Like that's so exciting. How does an author get there? How does that happen?
Yeah, I know. I think you make a great point because a lot of people who, yeah, want to be an author or want to be a storyteller, there's no one way to do it. And a lot of the kind of ins and outs happen behind the scenes. And so, yeah, it can be a kind of a lonely, isolating
Mm,
place to be in when you don't know, don't know what you're doing or how to get there. So I think just start writing, I think is the first thing at square one. Just start writing, coming up with stories, focus on that and focus on, your skill set and the stories you want to tell. And then I think like the most conventional or traditional pathway is like finding an agent, finding representation. So most people have to finish their manuscript first and then submit it to a variety of agents that want to represent your work. And then from there, yeah, then you try to work with a publisher who's interested in buying your book. So there's a few kind of traditional steps to becoming an author, but there's so many different ways to get your work out there with, especially with like Patreon and self-publishing. And so there's a lot of different ways to tell your story. But yeah, like you said, I'm going on my first tour and it's a very surreal moment for me.
Yeah, that
Definitely.
is so exciting. And that kind of leads me into my next question as far as like now you're saying there's not like one kind of conventional way to go about it. Now social media is so big. It's like I'm sure
Yeah,
that probably plays a part in it. And my producer, when we were talking about this interview, he's like, yeah, back in the day, you wouldn't even really like see the author's face a whole lot. But now y'all are like celebrities and you guys are everywhere and it's so fun. And a huge part of that is social media and you getting to like share your life on this platform. So what has it been like getting noticed?
for sure. Yeah, it's been very wild. And yeah, your producer is correct. I think 20, 30 years ago, authors were sort of like you would read a book. I know for me growing up, I would read a book and not even necessarily, to your point, not know what the author looks like or anything about their lives. And now it's, with one Google search or Instagram search, you follow your favorite authors and know
Yeah.
what they're having for breakfast. It's wild. It's really cool. I think especially social media, of course, has its downside, but the pros to it, especially during the pandemic, my first two books came out during COVID. And so all the events were virtual. I didn't really get to meet any readers in real life. But that's when social was great because then I could just go on Instagram and see different people tagging me in their reviews and hearing from readers that way. So it kind of adds a whole new element to reader engagement that I don't think really existed just, even a few years ago to the degree that it exists now, especially with like book talk on TikTok is like a whole other beast in a great way. So, yeah, it's really cool. It just is another avenue to be able to interact with people.
Yeah, it's amazing. Do you have any like fan stories, like your favorite fan interaction or like some social media thing you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool."
Yeah, I mean, it's it feels like every day or every other day there's a amazing, cute little post that I'm tagging, which is wonderful. I will
Oh,
say last last Y'all West, which is a book festival out in Santa Monica, one reader came up to me during my signing and I could tell he was a little nervous and he was so sweet. And he told me he had driven down from San Francisco for the festival and like took time off work or school or something to be there, and I like almost started crying
oh,
because that was my first in-person event to interact with readers and to just have that in-person interaction and knowing how much my story has affected them or impacted them. And um,
yeah.
he was even saying he was listening to the audiobook with his mom, and it kind of prompted a lot of questions about like coming out and what it's like to be queer. And that's the coolest part about this job is knowing that young people can kind of see themselves and it can help them, yeah, hopefully encourage them to be their best selves too, along with their family members. So yeah, it's pretty dope.
Isn't it amazing? Like when IRL in real life is so much better than like socials. And
Uh,
it's so cool when you get to put like the faces to the names of the people that are like commenting on your socials. And there's just something so special about meeting them in person. It feels like a real community. It's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and like social, like I said, is wonderful, but there is something just more genuine and authentic of just about like being face to face and having a real conversation instead of staring at your phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely feel that.
Totally. So, where did you get the idea to start writing If I See You Again Tomorrow? We read in your acknowledgments that it came out during the pandemic because you felt like Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day. But one of the things that we love about your writing is how you write similar to the rom-com, but you do your own take on it, similar to how you use like Legally Blonde in your last book, Blaine for the Win.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That was a big yeah, not to be like Debbie Downer and bring up COVID again, but I came up with the premise during COVID when I actually had the feeling of like, oh my gosh, every day is exactly the same. Like
Yeah.
all my social events were canceled. I never left the apartment because there was nothing to do outside. And everything was closed. And so I know I clearly wasn't the only one feeling that. I think the whole world was kind of in that same mindset. And I have this Google Doc where I just throw random story ideas in there. And I had a mini light bulb moment of like, oh, gay Groundhog's Day. And I wrote that in my Google Doc and just kind of left it at that for a minute, and then revisited it a few days, few weeks later, and the story kind of came to me bit by bit. And then the more I kind of leaned into it, the more I felt like there was a story in there that wasn't, because there's so many like Groundhog's Day time loop sorts of stories,
Yeah.
but one of the reasons why I love that trope so much is because I think there's so many fun ways to play with it, and you can put it in different genres and kind of have different rules around the time loop. So I kind of wanted to make my own, put my own original spin on the trope, and I hope I did this with If I See You Again Tomorrow. So yeah, I'm just so excited that it's going to be out there in the world soon.
Yeah, it's so exciting. How do you feel your writing journey has grown from when you first started until now?
Oh man, that's a good question. Hopefully I'm a better writer. I'll look back at old stuff I've written, whether it's the Sky Blues or like old article I used to write for HuffPost and stuff.
Oh,
And
cool.
I think, yeah, and I think I've improved as a storyteller, of course. Well, I shouldn't say of course, but I think I have improved as a storyteller. And I think I'm there's so much happening, especially in like the queer YA space, where there's book bans happening, and so many right-wing politicians trying to limit the sorts of stories that are accessible in school libraries. And I think it's especially important for storytellers to really fight back against that and make sure that, you know, there are stories that are particularly relevant to the LGBTQ community and young readers everywhere. And so I think, to answer your question, I think that has become more important in my writing, and knowing that these stories really matter. It kind of raises the stakes in a good way to make sure that I'm really challenging myself to write not only like fun and good stories that feel like they connect with audiences, but actually will make a difference out there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally. I love that. Okay, and you mentioned you used to write for HuffPost. So what was like your first big kind of article as a writer, or just something big that happened where you had to call home and you're like, guess what happened? What was that for
Yeah.
you?
Oh my gosh. I would say that was probably my senior year of college. I was a features writer for my college newspaper, and I applied to be an intern at the Oprah magazine, thinking I had like a 1 in a million shot. And I was like, oh well, I might as well just like shoot this email off and forget about it. And then I got the internship, and I was freaking out. It was definitely, yeah, it was definitely like my oh my gosh, what is it? Devil Wears Prada, like moment of Anne Hathaway, like going to New York for the summer and interning at Hearst magazines. And it was really a cool experience. I didn't get to meet Oprah, unfortunately, because that was when she was like launching her network, and so she was very busy with that stuff. But I did have many calls home being like, oh my gosh, I just like talked to Gail King in the elevator or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty sweet.
That is so fun. I love stories and like moments like that. When I lived in LA, I became a personal assistant for like this high profile acting coach. And it was like the same thing. You know, you'd have to like go to their house, drop stuff up, and then you see people there and you're like, oh my God, this is like, I grew up in like a really small town, you know, calling back home, being like, guess what, mom? It's such a
Yeah.
fun feeling. And it's so cool. I feel like that's when you learn so much like about yourself and just even like how the industry works, and then even like how you meet certain people in the industry. You're like, I don't want to live my life that way. Like, it's such a molding experience. It's so cool to get into like places and positions like that. But that's
Yeah.
what you said. You thought, like, I'm sure whenever we submit for something, right, it's like 1 in a million, but you never know, like, that was made for
Yeah.
you. That's so cool that it was just yours.
Thank you. Yeah, you got to shoot your shot.
Totally.
But yeah, I know. I do think work being in this industry now, I live in Los Angeles, so I'm surrounded by, yeah, those sorts of experiences have happened for sure, of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in this room right now.
Yeah.
And it does teach you a lot about like yourself and who you are and like and appreciate in people and what you don't like and don't appreciate in some people. So it's been a cool learning journey being out here for the past 3 years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you ever feel, and this is me personally, do you ever, like when I first started going in those situations, or even now, I feel like I'll have a little bit of imposter syndrome come over me.
Oh my
And then I
gosh.
realize, and I'm like, wait, I kind of feel like most of the people in this room are like fake it till you make it. Like we're all just humans
Yeah.
trying to do our best.
I know 100% I feel that. That's my everyday. I'm like, is this really happening? Am I good enough? It's wild. But yeah, to your point, I think once you kind of like switch that framework and realize that so many people are in that same boat and feeling the exact same thing, and I think you kind of slowly build that confidence of like, no, I do deserve to be in this room. And I think also being, like gay or really anyone, women, BIPOC folks, anyone who's from a marginalized background too, I think there's like that added layer of like, do I deserve to be here? Or like, I don't know, it can kind of come with some self-doubt because the world has kind of taught you that in some ways. And so I think that's kind of an added layer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel imposter syndrome is like my middle name. I need to go back to therapy and talk about it for sure. But
I
yeah,
think it's like all of our middle names, you know what I mean? I feel like we all
yeah,
have it, but, and I'm
yeah,
sure people look at you and your level of success and they're like, there's no way, but it's true. It's like, it's just there. I don't know if it's a human thing. It's insane, but
yeah. Well, and also too, I think social media can be so like, I don't want to say it's fake, but you're always putting out, I'll post stuff about like a good review I have, but I'm
yeah.
not gonna post my bad reviews. So it's like that facade of like, of
Yeah.
course, there's a little bit of yeah, a little bit of like mask wearing on social media. So a lot of people have maybe a certain impression of my success that isn't real, or maybe just there's more to the story there. And I am the same way with other people that I admire and respect. Like I don't know what
Yeah.
their bad days look like, so it's worth
So,
reminding yourself, I think, for sure.
yeah, I love it. Okay. So about back to the story, can you tell us who is Clark? And side note, how do you decide what names to use for your characters?
Yeah, Clark Huckleton is the main character who is stuck in the time loop, and he's stuck right away when you meet him. He's been stuck for 309 repeating today's already. So he's like, yeah, he's already like at his wits end, and he's like, oh my God, get me out of here. And yeah, I think I have like my notes app on my phone and a Google Doc where I just throw story ideas, character name ideas. Like I constantly challenge myself to kind of be moving through the world in a way that I'm just trying to be a sponge for different ideas. And whenever I hear a name that I like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna steal that for a character in my next book. So I can't even give you an answer that like is a specific story of how I came up with the name Clark or why I like the name Clark, but it just sort of at some point found its way into the doc and I felt like it fit with this character. And yeah, from I need to like start taking better notes of like how, because I get these questions a lot and I'm like, I don't even know how I come up with the character names or this like plot point. But yeah, at some point it made its way into the doc and now he's my main character.
I love it. That's so fun. No, that's even better story. You're like, I don't really know how, but it's somehow from my imagination, it got there. I mean, that's just life,
Yeah.
right? That's so cool. So in the book, Clark goes into an old movie theater that seems to only play rom-coms. So how did you decide which rom-coms the theater should play? And then why was When Harry Met Sally so important to Beau?
Oh, good question. I love these like getting into it. Um, yeah, I felt like it really worked with the dynamic between Clark and Beau. Rom-coms was something that Beau really appreciated, especially when Harry Met Sally loved the movie, and Clark kind of had a different perspective, at least in the beginning, of rom-coms in general and just like love and intimacy and connection. They were kind of coming from different ends of the spectrum on that, and so I thought that that sort of location and that movie specifically would be like a really great facilitator of some of the conversations that moved their relationship forward and kind of sparked some interesting conversations and interactions and kind of highlighted where they're the same, but also like where they're different when it comes to love and fate and all those questions. So yeah, it sort of just worked with the story, I think.
Wow, that's so special. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Is blue an important color to you? Because your first book is called The Sky Blues. And then in this book, there's a whole bakery geared toward the blue color. Even the brownies are blue.
I know, which is so wild because it's like to anyone who is like reading my books would so easily pick up on that and be like, oh, this guy's obsessed with blue. Apparently I am. I didn't realize I was obsessed with blue, but now I'm like, oh, I'm infatuated with this color. Yeah, it is. Well, it's weird too because I say my favorite color is green, which I think it is. I love green, but then I use blue, and even in the book I'm writing now, I very subconsciously, unintentionally used blue. Like blue's kind of an important color in my next book. And I'm like,
Wow.
what is wrong with me? So yeah, I think that's gonna become just like a part of my author brand is the color blue,
Ah.
but I do like the color, but maybe I'm
Yeah.
using it a bit too much.
No, that's cool. I just had this thought. I don't know if it's spot on or not, but like blue is just one of those colors. It may be the only color like it where it's such a beautiful, bright, happy color, but then it's also known for being like really emotional and sad. So it
For
has
sure.
color has like this double meaning. And I don't know if there's any other colors like that. So I don't know. Maybe it's like a
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's you hit the nail on the head because my first book, that was sort of what I was going for with
Okay.
the title was like the main character's name is Sky.
Okay.
So obviously Sky Blue is like the color, but then it also leans into what Sky is going through. He's going through a lot of tough stuff. So it was his blues. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally hit the nail on the head because it is, I think, an interesting color in that way that it can kind of take on different meanings depending on the context. And it can be both things at the same time too. It can be like a really fun, beautiful color, but also like, yeah, have that connection to sadness and grief and things you're difficult things you're going through. So yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I love it. Okay, so this is a little question for my producer. So, are brownies like a staple at your house because they seem to play such an important role in this story? Also, this is coming from my producer. I saw you made the blue velvet brownies that you talk about in the book on your Instagram. Do you have a recipe that you're planning to share? Hashtag Ben's Blue Velvet Brownies is the hashtag that you use for that.
Yeah, I love it. I love brownies. Absolutely, yes. So like a sweet tooth. I have such a big sweet tooth. I'm a fanatic, like addicted to sugar. It's terrible. So yes, I love brownies. And yes, I love that question because I came up with a recipe along with one of my I mean, I say I came up with it. My friend who's a baker did most of the legwork, but we worked together to come up with a recipe for the blue velvet brownies that are in the book that are like Clark and Bo are obsessed with them. They're delicious brownies. And it was really hard. I tried a recipe that was like red velvet brownies and then just tried to swap in a different food coloring and they turned out green. I did not know what I was talking or
Wow.
doing at all. And then I hit up my friend Michael and he was like, I got this. So he did a few test runs in his kitchen and came up with a really great recipe, and they're delicious. I
Oh my
had a
God.
taste. So yeah, I think. Oh, so yeah, I'm giving away the recipe with. It's a part of my pre-order campaign. So for anyone who pre-orders the book, they can go to the link in my bio, and there's a form, a super like quick short form you can fill out just like showing that you pre-ordered the book, and then I will send you the recipe and a little postcard thing along with like a signed book plate and stuff. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay, and are these blue velvet brownies, are they going to be on tour with you like forever, whoever comes?
Yeah, I'm in the process of like figuring that out because Michael, the baker, he lives in San Francisco, so they will be at that event, which I'm
Wow.
super excited about. But I was trying to figure out how to get brownies at each one. It's going to be a little challenging because I want them to be like good and fresh,
Yeah.
and I don't want to like bring them in my suitcase from Los Angeles throughout the week because that's disgusting and no one would want to eat that. So I'm trying to figure out if I can do it or like who I can hit up to like bake them and bring them to the event. but hopefully there'll be brownies at each event. I can't guarantee it, but hopefully I'll figure it out.
That's amazing. I love it. Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to jump into a couple like TikTok questions. So if you're on TikTok, you'll know that the GRWM, get ready with me's, are so popular right now.
Hmm.
So what is your personal GRWM? What is your get ready with me routine every day?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm addicted to coffee. It's not great, but I'm on my like, I don't even know, third cup right now. What time is it? I should stop drinking coffee for the day. But I usually don't I like will drink my coffee in the morning, check my email, and then will wait to brush my teeth because I hate that taste of like the
Totally.
toothpaste and the coffee, of course, right? And then I'll usually have a workout in either like the late morning, early afternoon, shower after that, and then my life is so boring. I'm like staring at a laptop, working for most of my day. Like what you're seeing, this is like 90% of my life. So that's probably it. I mean, I've made the effort just because I live alone and I work remotely from home. I'm writing. So I do make the effort to be like, okay, every day I have to have something on the calendar like gets me out, sees my friends. Like it's such a big mental health thing for me to be able to commit to that and actually follow through. So yeah, so then usually every evening I have either like a book thing with friends or going to a bar or doing something. I used to play kickball, which was fun. I was thinking about doing that again. And
That's
also just like doing something with like my hands and like active that's not just on a screen, I think is important that I'm going to try to like that's a 2023 goal. So yeah, TBD.
fun. You have a fun
Yeah.
life. I love it. So exciting. It really is.
Thanks.
Okay, so we know you love coffee because you just shared that. So what is your go-to Starbucks order versus what would Clark's go-to Starbucks order be?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, mine is I love Starbucks like blonde roast. They usually will because it's also like more caffeine, so my heart is
Yeah.
just like exploding through my chest. So yeah, I think they stop blonde roast at like 10 or 10:30. So like got to go early to get that.
Yes.
Um, with like a splash of cream and sugar. That's usually my go-to. Um, Clark's that's a good question because I don't unless I'm blanking and I'm going to be embarrassed if I'm lying right now, but I don't think he drinks coffee in the story. But
Okay.
I could see something like I could see him enjoying like just like black coffee with the blue brownie because like the blue brownie is super sweet and I feel like he wants some balance. He'd want some, the black coffee
Yeah.
with the sweet treat. So that's what I will say. Maybe if there's a sequel, I'll write in a coffee scene with Clark.
I love that. Amazing. This was
Sweet.
wonderful. Thank you.
Can't
We really
wait.
appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. I love the questions. They're great.
Yay. Okay, awesome.
Sweet.
Well, I hope you have a good day.
All right, you too. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to Young Entertainment Mag.